Today we're going to talk about bass fishing rods and reels. And there's a big move for specialized tackle with rods that, for certain lures, certain types of baits, reels with all these different gear ratios, but we're going to simplify it. We're going to talk about 5 setups that will cover just about everything in bass fishing. We're going to talk about it right now. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to do 5 setups, and if you notice, I'm going to give some different setups that I use. These are the ones that I take if I am not in my boat with all my rods and reels. If I'm going with a buddy and I'm not trying to take a bunch of rods, these 5 do it for me. They cover so many different things, and they're from all different brands. I'm going to give some recommendations on rods and reels that have worked well for me, but the important thing to keep in mind is there are so many good brands out there. All the major brands make a good reel, make a good rod. A lot of times they're even made in the same place, especially when you're talking about reels. They all come from the same factories in China. They just look a little different, but a lot of times you're buying the same thing. So get what you can afford, at the price point. But what we're going to talk about specifically is the lengths, actions, and what to use them for. So we're going to start with the spinning rod. Got to have a spinning rod for a lot of finesse techniques. This is a 7-foot medium, which is the do-it-all, something you could use for many different techniques. I got a little swim bait on here. You can throw a drop shot rig on this. You can throw a Ned rig. You can throw a wacky rig. There's so many things you can do with the 7-foot medium. Personally, if I had my choice, I'd like a medium light for drop shot, for really light stuff. But if you could just pick one spinning rod, the 7-foot medium will do it all. This is a workhorse. This is a Fenwick Elite bass. Again, there's a lot of different 7-foot mediums. Everyone makes them. That's the important thing, is just getting that length and the power, medium action. 2500 size reel, 3000 size reel. That's kind of your mid-size reel that would do it all. But again, a 7-foot medium spinning rod. Braid to fluorocarbon is how I like to do it, because you could just change your leader size, your fluorocarbon. If you're using something that's a little bit heavier, fishing around a little bit heavier cover, go up to 10 pound instead of 8 pound, or go down to 6 pound when you're fishing really clear water. That braid to fluorocarbon will make this setup even more versatile than it already is. Next up, we got a 7-foot, this is a 7'1", so somewhere around 7 foot, medium heavy rod. You can do a lot of different things with this. You see I got a topwater bait tied on here. This is a Phoenix Feather, really like those rods. This is an Abu Garcia reel, 7.1 to 1 gear ratio. There's a lot of different reels that will fit that category, that speed. But with this medium heavy, you can do a lot of things. You can throw reaction baits. You can get by throwing a spinner bait, throwing a worm. You can throw lighter jigs. You can even throw a chatterbait on this if you need to. It really does a lot of different things. It's a really versatile setup, a medium heavy in a rod that's about 7 foot with a 7.1 to 1 or so gear ratio is a must. Stepping it up to the next one, we're going with a heavy action. So this one, I got a jig on here. This is again a Phoenix Feather. I got a Shimano Metanium reel on here. Again, that 7.1 to 1 gear ratio. It's just an all-around good gear ratio. I like to use a heavy for a jig, pitching. You could throw a frog on this if you had some braid. You can throw a little bit heavier spinner bait, a bigger topwater. You can do a lot of things with a heavy. It's a very versatile setup that covers your bases and will do a lot for you. So the next one is a 7'3" extra heavy. So a little bit heavier, a little bit longer. Also, this is in that same series, the Phoenix Feather. I personally like to get a lot of rods in the same series once you find one that you like, because you get used to those same ergonomics, you get used to the feel, the look, everything about it. It does make sense, again, once you find one that you like, to stick with the same series. So I like this one, a 7'3" extra heavy. Again, it's a Shimano Metanium. This is just the older version. Again, 7.1 to 1. I like to use things that I can use for multiple different techniques. So 7.1 to 1 is not too fast, not too slow. You can do a lot of things with it. For this rod, I throw jig head swim baits, hollow belly swim baits, frogs if you had braid on, heavier jigs, a little bit heavier Texas rigs. There's a lot of things you can do with this setup. Again, having a medium heavy, heavy, and an extra heavy will cover a lot of your bases. And a 7.1 to 1 reel will do all of those things. So finally, you need a rod that you can throw a crankbait on or a chatterbait. My preference is to throw a chatterbait on a cranking style rod, just so it has a little more give, so you're not pulling the bait away from the fish. But again, you need something to throw crankbaits. This is a Powell Naked series. It's a 7.5. It's a medium heavy and it's a composite. So it's not graphite. It's not fiberglass, it's a composite. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You get that sensitivity, but you also have that forgiveness, the bend. Again, same thing with crankbaits. If you have a little bit of give, you're not gonna rip the bait away from the fish. So you got to have some rod that will do a little bit of everything, you know, with your reaction style baits. You can also throw spitter baits on this. You can throw some bigger top waters on it. You can do a lot of things with it. I like the 7.5. It's great for long distance casting. Now, this is one time when I'm actually gonna use a little bit slower gear ratio. This is 6.2 to 1. This is the Shimano Bantam. I really like that setup. It's really a sturdy reel. It's a one-piece aluminum frame, so I love the feel of it when you're cranking, when you're winding. So it just feels solid. Really good reel for that. But again, you gotta have some sort of cranking rod or a reaction bait rod. So a good versatile spinning rod, some sort of moving bait rod like a crankbait rod, and then a medium heavy, heavy, and extra heavy. That's the way that I would pick 5 rods. You know, some people like a medium bait caster instead of a medium heavy, but in my experience, it's kind of limited. You know, it's good for small top waters and jerk baits, but you can do it with a medium heavy as well. So thanks for watching.